For me personally, I noticed that the shoes or the trainers that I wore rather made a big difference to how I drove. As time went on and I got more experience, it didn't matter so much. I could drive barefoot, which is kind of gross because I don't really do that and it's a bit weird. But I could drive in Crocs, I could drive in Tim's, I could drive in work boots, I could drive in Dr. Martens, whatever. It doesn't really matter too much now. But I did notice that when I was driving that I became very sensitive to the shoes that I wore, and my ability to control the clutch and control the car kind of varied. And I think in some ways this is always going to depend on the car that you're driving and how sensitive the controls are of the car that you're driving. But for me, I found that especially early on, trainers did make a big difference, or footwear made a big difference. And so I'm wondering what are the best driving shoes or trainers? Now, the short answer for this for me is probably the Puma Speedcat Replicat mids. Were they Replicats? I think they're Replicats. But when I first started driving, as I said, being into cars a little bit more than most, I might have taken it a little bit far. And like some of my friends like to remind me about, when I first started driving, I had a Rover 214 SI, by the way, just to set the scene. So it's a 3-door Rover, 1.4 litre engine, 16 valve. Maybe it have 105 bhp, I think. Anyway, point being, it wasn't really a fast car. But me being a driver, I thought, you know what I'll do? I'm going to get myself some driving gloves. And so it's funny thinking about it now, but I still would get them. So if you do know some good driving gloves, then let me know. But I've just passed my test, so imagine this. 18, I think. And so I go down to Oxford Street and I go searching through the shops to try and find leather gloves. And I go to, I think, House of Fraser. I think I went to Selfridges. I went to Debenhams. And I think it might have been Debenhams in the end, funny enough, that I ended up in that had the gloves that I wanted. And I wish I could remember the brand, but I can't. But they were really nice gloves. And to this day, I'm still sad about the fact that I lost one of them. And so for a while, I was driving with one glove. I was driving with one glove like Michael Jackson, which is random. And I never bought another pair just because people used to rip me for them. But I actually really enjoyed driving with them. But anyway, these gloves were, just to set the scene, they're sort of stitched brown and tan leather. Yes, brown and tan. So it was like a darker brown and a lighter brown together. Open back driving gloves with a button on. And I was trying to find gloves that fit my hand perfectly so that when I buttoned them up at the back, it wasn't loose, like it was tight on my hands. Kind of like, I forget that film that's got Ryan Gosling in it. If I remember it, I'll put that into the video. But yeah, if I do remember it, I'll put it into the video. But there's that film with Ryan Gosling where he drives and he's got. Does Baby Driver have driving gloves? I'm not sure. Anyway, but I had these brown open back leather driving gloves, and I thought they were the best thing ever. And every time I wore them, people would take them. I didn't really care at the time, but I think maybe it did subconsciously get to me because I stopped wearing them after a while. But yeah, I do think driving gloves actually do make driving a nice experience. The leather on leather grips really well on the steering wheel, and I felt like I had extra control. Gloves aside, what I also wore were the Puma Speedcats, and these were the mids because I didn't. Well, I had the low ones as well, but I used to love the mids because they were kind of like a boot, but it wasn't too much of a boot. Because if you had like the full-on sort of Sparco Puma kind of kart/racing boots, it's just like, well, where are you going? They didn't really go with anything. But I remember having these blue suede. I think they were suede. Yeah, I'm gonna call them blue suede Puma Speedcat mid. I think they were kart boots, and they had quite a smooth, hard rubber sole. But what they also had that was beautiful was they kind of had like a bit of a curve or chamfer on the, not really a chamfer, it was like a nice sort of gradual curve on the heel of the shoe, and that made changing gears really nice. And I learned how to sort of heel toe shift from quite a young age. Well, I say I learned, I've taught myself. I don't know if I'm doing it the right way, but it feels good when I do it, when you kind of downshift and you rev match. So as you're, to people that know how to race, they know what I'm talking about. To people that maybe they're less familiar with this, rev matching is the idea basically that when you go to change gears, particularly on a downshift, the revs of the engine rise because of the gear ratio is different. Science, not get into it. But point being that when you downshift, if you press the clutch in and quickly blip the accelerator, so just press the accelerator a little bit so the revs rise, and then you release the clutch and shift down, or you shift down into your gear, next gear, and then release the clutch. If you can do it just right, then it's something called rev matching, where the you increase the revs of the engine to match the speed of the gearbox and the wheels, and if you get it right, it feels amazing. It's like it makes for incredibly smooth gear changes, and it makes you just feel like you're an amazing driver basically. And so having the right driving shoes really helped me with that. But what I also really enjoy driving were Converse. So I think if you can't, those Puma Speed Cats, if I could find them, I would get another pair. I think I've had 2 or 3 of them. One of them I kind of I think forgot about it for a little while and got moldy, so I had to throw them away. But I look on eBay every so often, long for another pair of those. I would really like to get them in green. Never found them in green, but found them in black and blue, and I love those trainers, man. They were amazing for driving. Bit weird to kind of make them work with an outfit when you're going out, but yeah, man, they were great. They were great shoes. That said, Puma Speed Cats up there at the top, or the Replicats. I'll get the name exactly right in the description or down below. Converse, just those Converse All Stars sort of Chuck Taylors. Those were really great for driving. Really thin sole, and I think they gave you a lot of driving feel. Well, but sometimes I find that with Converse, was it Converse? I think it was the Converse. It made my feet a little bit sweaty when I was driving. My toes felt weird. Probably gonna edit that out actually. But yeah. Anyway, that aside, I also really enjoyed driving in Vans slip-ons. So like Vans Eras and Vans slip-ons. I think what I'm generally seeing here is that the thinner the sole is, the better the shoes. Some people, for driving that is, some people drive in, is it Tod's? I've never really, I've never really had a pair of Tod's. I did want to get a pair, but I never really liked how they seem to wear over time. Like the shoe just seemed to kind of deform a little bit, and that didn't really appeal to me. But yeah, man, I do maintain that if you are into driving and you can find yourself a pair of Puma Speed Cats, especially the mids, just because that strap, I don't know where it is, just does something. It just makes it extra special. Then do that. I think those are the best driving shoes.